As the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. I have said these things to you so that my joy may be in you, and that your joy may be complete. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. No one has greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. You are my friends if you do what I command you. I do not call you servants any longer, because a servant does not know what the master is doing. But I have called you friends, because I have made known to you everything that I have heard from my Father. You did not choose me, but I chose you, and I appointed you to go and bear fruit that will last, so that the Father will give you whatever you ask him in my name. I am giving you these commands so that you may love one another.
Hey, good morning, Canvas Church. And to all of us who are virtual this morning, because everybody's virtual today, just wanted to say welcome. Thank you for joining us this morning from your home. Currently, right now, it's Friday as we film this, and you all are home watching this currently, probably in your pajamas because it's freezing. That's at least what the forecast is telling me today. It's supposed to be freezing on Sunday. So you're probably happy that you're home watching this on TV, but I'm standing here on stage with Daniel and wishing that there was a few more people to be looking at this morning. It's always weird to do virtual services without anybody in the room, but I imagine all of you right now, and I miss you very, very much. So, hey, I want to say Happy New Year. It is 2022. I want to start this morning by giving you a few updates and announcements about things that are happening in the life of the church. The first and the most obvious is, again, that we are not together in person today. We weren't able to have our Christmas Eve candlelight service, and we have taken a break this morning as well from in-person service. And the reason for that is that, we've got another COVID surge that's happening. We have several families in our church that are positive with COVID, and we've got this Omicron variant, which, by the way, thank you to Tony Brown, who now when I hear Omicron, I can't help but think of Transformers, and thinking like that Omicron is like the new like the new leader of the Decepticons or something like that. But anyway, thanks Tony for that. Now that's all I hear when I hear Omicron. Seriously though, we are virtual this morning, and like I said, it's because we've had several families that are dealing with COVID right now. Everyone that I know of is doing well and has had, pretty minor symptoms. We had 4 in our family that were positive, and Natalie's still struggling with some cough and that, but otherwise we are on the mend. And so first things first, please be praying. Just be praying for our families who are isolating and quarantining right now. Pray for their healing. Pray for their encouragement. Secondly, continue to check on one another. We do a pretty good job at Canvas with checking on one another, but we are human beings, and sometimes we just get very busy in our own stuff, and we forget to look up and look out for one another. So please take a minute to call somebody, to text, or to drop something off on someone's doorstep and remind them that they are thought of and loved. Now, next Sunday, we are planning to be back in person together. That's January 9th. And we're going to be meeting here for our service. And as part of that service, we're going to enjoy the Canvas Kids winter program that was postponed from a couple of weeks ago. And our kids are excited. They have worked hard, and I hope that all of you will be here to help support them this next Sunday, January 9th, 10:30, here at Canvas. And because we haven't been together for the last couple of weeks, the kids are going to have a run-through on Saturday, January 8th at 4 p.m. here at Canvas. So please plan to have your child here if they're participating in that program. And if they cannot be here for some reason, please contact Candace or Heather and let them know so they know what to expect for that. Last bit of business, make sure and follow what is happening here at Canvas by checking the calendar on our mobile Church Center app. As we move into the new year, there are lots of things that are cranking up, and we don't want you to miss any opportunity to connect and to grow with one another. So please be checking our mobile app and be checking our calendar. I also want to thank you for your continued giving all throughout this last year. If you don't already do this, and most do, I encourage you to take advantage of that mobile app for your regular giving. It's simple. It's very customizable. You can set it up for auto pay recurrently, which is great. And it keeps a running log as well for you to be able to look back on or print off a report if needed. We ended and are beginning this new year in a strong way, and it's simply because of your continued love and support for what God is doing in and through Canvas Church. And so thank you very, very much. At the end of this month of January, we are going to celebrate our 3rd birthday as a church community. And that's crazy. I mean, that's really, really hard for me to believe, but it's our 3rd birthday. In some ways, I'm like, wow, 3 years have absolutely flown by. And then there's other points when I look at it and I think to myself, I can't really imagine a time when this community wasn't together, because I think about how much it means to me and to our family and to living life and ministry out together with you. I can't imagine what life would be like without it. And just like I believe this for you and your family, I believe that the best days and the best chapters in the life of Canvas are ahead of us. They've already been authored, and we are just now beginning to step into that future. I believe this is going to be an exciting and great year ahead of us. So saying all of that, here we are in the first Sunday of 2022, and again, hard to believe that another year has just ripped by. And saying that, though, with a year like 2021, for a lot of people, I think the idea that it's done is a comforting thought, right? Because it's been a challenging year for so many people all around the world. We have gone through this collective obstacle with this pandemic together, and it's affected everybody. We all had high hopes when we entered last year that by the time we got to this point, that COVID would be something that we'd just be looking at like kind of in our rearview mirror, but that is not yet the case, is it? While 2021 might have been a post-isolation year for many people, and having the opportunity to step back kind of into the world and into motion again, it certainly didn't turn out to truly be post-pandemic. COVID is still with us. It's probably going to be with us for quite a while. It may just end up being like, other things that we have learned to live with. But we're still learning to live with it. We're still in a global pandemic. It's still disrupting lives. And worst of all, it's still claiming lives of people that we love and care about. It's been a hard year. And I think we need to acknowledge that. I don't think it helps us to try to diminish or dismiss that reality. In fact, when we deny the difficulties that we face in our everyday lives, it really does a disservice to our relationship with God. We become disconnected to God. We become disconnected to one another. And I believe it delays our own healing and health. Remember, as followers of Christ, we are called to bind up the brokenhearted, but we are also called to bring hope to those who are hopeless, those who are needing hope. And the world is needing hope. right now. So as you stand on the edge of this new year, what hope do you walk in with? What hope do you bring with you? When you look back on the year that has passed and then the one that is now, that has come, what is your perspective on that? How do you view that? What do you take with you? What do you leave behind? And what new things do you long for? What things do you long to discover as you walk into this year? In order for us to set a course for this year ahead, we need to pause long enough to look back and to reflect and to examine the year that we've just come through. As a chaplain in healthcare, now like in the middle of my 10th year as a chaplain working in the medical community, one of the tools that we oftentimes use for patients, particularly those that are at end of life, is something that is referred to as life review or dignity therapy. Life review is a systematic and structured process for helping people to recall events and memories in an effort to find meaning and achieve resolution in their life, to bring them to a place of peace. We guide them through a process of recalling significant life events and life contributions, and then to find meaning in those events, to be able to basically connect the dots. Sometimes we need somebody to come alongside of us, a guide, somebody that helps us make sense of things that, in our perspective, seem very fragmented because we don't take the time to pause, and things seem like they don't make sense. Sometimes we need an outside perspective that will help kind of guide us and lead us to a place of meaning and resolution. Sometimes this involves methods such as journaling, storytelling, or reminiscence to help patients recall significant life events. And these activities involve things like reflecting over a person's life's work, life's accomplishments, addressing unresolved emotions, and acknowledging the need for forgiveness from others or a desire to offer forgiveness to somebody else. It's really powerful. And life reviews, they help us cope with emotions, with grief, with unresolved life events, but they also release trapped emotions. They release good things by recalling positive experiences, and they lead to the completion of life goals. It's a powerful process. It's a humbling one to walk with people, and it really, really is, to be brought into a place and space with other individuals and to listen to them kind of reflect back over their life. And one of the things that I've always thought of is like, why do we do this? Why do we wait to do this kind of thing when we are at the end of our lives? Why should we wait till we're at the end of life to look back? Why wait to a point where our bodies shut down due to burnout or illness or age to finally pull over and examine the way we've lived, the way that we're living, and the way that we hope to live with whatever days God gifts us, in our future? I believe it was Socrates who was credited for saying that the unexamined life is not worth living. So, speaking on this subject of pausing and examining, here's what I would like to do today. I want to lead us through the spiritual exercise of the Examen. I've spoken about this practice in the past, but I've been brought back to it personally again as I reflect back on this last year and as I enter this new one. And I felt God's leading to bring this back to us as a whole again. The Ignatian Examen, or the daily Examen, is a contemplative prayer led by memory. During an examen, one reflects on the current day, focusing on memories of the events of the day as a way of recognizing God's divine presence and then discerning from him what his direction is for us. The Examen is an ancient practice in the church, and it can help us see God's hand at work through the whole experience, the good, the bad, and all that is in between. Often the examen awakens a person to the divine through the everyday, ordinary moments. It draws connection to all those little points, all those little dots, all those things that at the moment seem insignificant. But all of a sudden, we're brought to an awareness that God's divine handprint, his fingerprint, is working in and through all of those ways, in surprising, subtle ways God is speaking to us. This prayer practice helps cultivate and refine discernment in us, as well as then increasing our awareness in general of God's presence. God's presence is not something that we just come into for an hour or a couple of hours a week when we do this thing called church. His presence it envelops us. His presence is with us every moment, every waking moment of the day. The thing that changes is our awareness that he is there, our awareness of his presence, and our attunement to his presence. The method we will be looking at this morning is adapted from the technique outlined by in the spiritual exercises developed by Ignatius Loyola in the 16th century. Ignatius required his companions, the Jesuits, to practice the examen daily at noon and before turning in to sleep. So twice a day, it was a habit that they did to reflect back, midday and at the end of the day. And it's a habit that Jesuits and many Christians still practice to this day. Traditionally, there are 5 movements or steps in the examen. 1 is to acknowledge an awareness of God's presence. 2 is to review the day in a posture of gratitude. 3 is to recognize a consolation and desolation from the day. Now, let me pause with that for a minute, because I don't know that we regularly use those words and understand them. Consolation and desolation. A consolation is an experience that causes you to feel fully alive, at peace, joyful, happy, comforted, well-connected, whole, your best self. And it could be understood as an experience that draws you closer to God. It makes you feel close to him. A desolation, on the other hand, is an experience that causes you to feel drained of energy, to feel frustrated, irritated, angry, sad, sorrowful, alone, unaccepted, fragmented, less than your best self. It could be an experience in which you feel far away from God, distant from him, separated from him. And here's the tricky thing about desolation. A desolation, the reason why it's tricky is that even though it's uncomfortable and sometimes a distressing experience for us to travel through, and we may feel far from God in that moment, God is not far. In fact, he's actually very near in those moments with us. That's his promise to us, and he's faithful in that promise. So the gift is praying with the desolation and recognizing that God is present in that moment, and telling God about your experience and asking God for grace in that experience. God shows up in both desolations and consolations. It's just that it's easier for us to experience God in the consolations. And unfortunately, we often move away from him in desolations. Number 4, choose a desolation to pray into. And then number 5, look with hope for new tomorrow. Now, I'm going to go, that's just a very quick overlay and outline of the daily examen. We're going to, here in just a second, we're going to go back through that and in a little bit more detail together. But this is what the daily examen looks like, and typically speaking, a person can move through this in a rather quick period of time. Sometimes you will decide that you need to sit on one of those movements longer than another, but genuinely speaking, it's something that can be incorporated pretty easy into your daily routine. And I say all of that because I know that when we talk about incorporating any kind of new habit into life, one of the first things that we're always thinking about is, well, how much time is that going to take me? And it is going to take you some time to do. It's not something that is just going to be automatic. Growing spiritually, becoming spiritually healthy, there's no quick fix to it. There's no like spiritual diet pill. There's no just automatic thing that requires us doing nothing and then receiving what we need. We know this with anything in life, though. I mean, when we look at like goals to get physically healthy, we're we understand pretty well that that's going to take an investment of time, and it's going to take an investment of energy, and it's going to take intentional goals and coming back to those things and staying consistent with them. It's the same with our spiritual health. We're going to have to invest some time, but I'm going to tell you right now, this daily examen, I mean, seriously, you take 10, 15 minutes out of your day to do this, you can kind of go through those movements of prayer. Now, as we transition now into this new year, what I want to do today is I want to modify the daily examen that I just outlined for you and look at it in the course of looking back over the last year. Let's apply the examen to a year instead of just a day. And it's pretty simple to do that because the examen, again, helps us reflect on a past period of time. So that past period of time could be a day, it could be a month, it could be a year, but the principles remain the same. So let's walk through that together. And if you can, put yourself in your home, wherever you're sitting and watching this. Even if you're listening to this later while you're driving, don't close your eyes and get into a wreck and then blame me for that. But try to bring yourself in your mind to a place of focus. And as we walk through these steps together. So step one is this. Become aware of God's presence. One way of doing this is to ask the Holy Spirit to help you review the year with a holy perspective. A holy perspective. Ask him for wisdom, grace, and faith. Ask for the grace to tear yourself away from your own patterns of thinking and seeing so that you can actually see your life more as God sees it. And of course, when you look back, you're going to see things like your failings. But you need to understand this. God sees you as a beloved daughter and a beloved son who has a future and a hope. You're also going to see your accomplishments. But understand this, God sees you more deeply. Not just what you do, not the person behind all the activity, but a person that is made in his image. As you begin your prayer, become aware of God's presence right now, in this moment, letting go of all that has come before and focusing on what is right now. God is with us. God is with you right now. See God's loving gaze upon you as you gaze upon God. Step two, review the year with gratitude. Review the year with gratitude. Acknowledge now that this moment is not isolated. This past year has been quite different, like I said, for all of us. A different year than ever before. Even if it was a difficult year, though, choose one thing that you can be grateful for. Notice how this one thing for which you are grateful has affected different places in your life. How it's touched you, how it's touched the things around you. Express your gratitude and your thanks to God for that. And now invite God to look with you over this past year. Or you might imagine, if you close your eyes, you might imagine, again, don't do it if you're driving, but if you're at home, close your eyes and imagine Jesus sitting with you and like you're watching a video that kind of tracks back over your last year. Give Jesus the remote or ask him to show you significant points over this last year. Things when you felt encouraged, uplifted, comforted. As you use this holy perspective to review the year, pay attention to the good gifts from the year ending. And name those specifically, those things that come to your memory right now. Name them and then thank God for them. Verbalize them. Write them down. Write them down. Because memory is powerful, and the enemy knows that memory is powerful. So one of the things that the enemy does is try to distract us and pull us away, cloud our perspective, and cause us to forget all the good things and all the faithfulness of God. Harness the power of memory as we reflect over this last year. Step 3, pay attention to your emotions. Think again over this last year and notice your emotional reactions. What memories speak most loudly to you right now? What events, what conversations, relationships, activities bring up the most emotion now as you remember them? Ask God to help you linger in those emotions, to sit with those for a moment, whether they're pleasant or whether they're disturbing. I know that's not easy. I know that's not easy. Ask God for the strength to do that just for a moment. Ask for help in understanding why you feel the way that you do. What can you learn about yourself and about your situation as you dwell in your emotional responses? What people, experiences, and moments left you feeling hopeful? What experiences or people left you feeling uplifted or connected to others and to God? Of these moments, did any of them increase your faith, your hope, and your love? That is called a spiritual consolation, what we talked about before. Take a moment to notice these. Take a moment to notice these and then pause to acknowledge them and to thank God for these moments. Now, turn with God's help and review your experience during the pandemic, during this last year, the moments of desolation, or things that still need healing in your life. What people, experiences, disappointments, and other moments left you feeling less hopeful, more isolated, and less connected to others and God? What things need healing? What brokenness needs to be mended in your heart? Take a few moments to look back. Did any of these moments lead to a decrease of your faith, hope, and love? This is spiritual desolation. Now pause to acknowledge these moments. Step 4, choose one feature of the year and pray from it. While you are lingering with your memories and emotions, settle on one feature. Perhaps it's a single event, or maybe it's a pattern from your own behavior that has come to your mind as you reviewed this last year. Whatever that thing is that has emerged, allow it to fuel now your prayer. Don't worry about any other aspects of the year that could, pop up in your mind or your thinking right now. Stay on that one thing that has come to you with the most power, and then pray from those thoughts and emotions. Of the moments you have reflected on, is there anything that you need to ask forgiveness for? Anything that you need to ask forgiveness for? Ask God for that forgiveness and for the guidance on whether or not to seek forgiveness from others. Maybe there's something that you need to take a step to mend in a relationship with somebody else. Do you need healing from wounds that you've received or losses that you have borne over this last year? Ask God for that healing and to show you any first steps towards greater wholeness. Step 5, look forward to the new year. Look toward the new year and look forward to it. Now pause and be open with God about this present moment in time. Are you waiting for things to change? Are you waiting to be able to make new plans? Are you experiencing new opportunities to be with loved ones? Do you feel stalled out? Are you hoping that this year will be different? What is life like for you right now in this moment currently? How does it feel to you? Now express those feelings and emotions to God and notice God accept what you say. Imagine what challenges now and blessings await you in this coming year. Think of important relationships or major and minor decisions that you need to make, skills to learn, habits to build, healing to seek, good works to accomplish. Make a simple list of highlights, things that matter to you, that you expect to take prominence in your life in the new year. Collect all of that up, and then bring it before God and ask Him for the grace that you're going to need as you walk through this next year. And then looking ahead to the future, do you sense any invitation coming from God as you move forward? Is God inviting you to make a change? To make a change or to commit yourself to something more fully? As you've walked through this difficult year, as we've gone through this pandemic, as we reflect on those experiences, is God inviting you to make a change or to commit to something new? Are there any habits that you have made during the pandemic that you want to continue, or are there habits that you made that you know need to be broken? Pay special attention to the spiritual consolations and spiritual desolations, because these are particularly helpful in listening to God's invitation to us. What hopes are in your heart right now? What hopes have collected in your heart as you look at your life going forward? Ask God now what He hopes for you. What He hopes for you. Ask God for whatever help that you might need to respond to His invitations in your life. And then end your prayer thanking God for love and life and the possibility of unearthing holiness wherever you walk in this next year. As we get ready to close in prayer, there is a video following this message that's going to guide you back through what we just talked about. And it's looking at the Examen in the daily form. But again, those principles can be applied as you look back over the year and look forward to this year. I pray that you will, my desire is that you will do both. You will spend some moments of time as we spend time with our families in our pajamas and in front of a fire, that we'll take time to reflect over this last year and look forward. And if it's possible, I want you again to take some intentional time to quiet yourself and quiet the environment around you. And I say if possible because, listen, I remember I did it along with you for pretty much a year when we were virtual. I know that's difficult to sit down with family sometimes and to create a quiet space in order to worship. But I want to ask you to make an effort for that this morning. Make an effort to create some space for worship and prayer. This video is something that you can refer back to. You can refer back to it as you go into next week, next month. You can refer back to it as many times as needed. My goal and my desire is that you would develop the spiritual habit of pausing and examining. The Examen prayer can really help to be that guide. We are so rushed in all that we do, in every way that we do it, and we're not meant to live that way. Don't let your life be like an automobile that is neglected, that's not brought in for its regular maintenancing and its regular oil changes. You know, when that happens, and we've all seen that happen, the engine eventually blows up because it's been neglected. If we just keep driving, and we never pull over to maintenance. We never pull over to check underneath the hood and really to get a tune-up, to figure out the state of where things are at and what needs to be, fixed, what needs to be repaired, and we just keep moving and we just keep staying in motion, eventually the engine blows. And that same thing happens in our lives. Don't let that happen to you. It doesn't have to be that way in this year. Take steps intentionally, daily steps to cultivate spiritual health and be in tune with God's will and his direction for your life. If you will do that, if we will do that together as a church, we're going to look back on 2022 and we're just going to sit and wonder in amazement of what God has done in and through our lives. Let's pray together. Father, I thank you so much for your love. God, I thank you that you care enough about us to remind us that we need to pause and to reflect, that it's good for us to do so, and it's good for us to do so often. That really is the essence of prayer, is that we are staying in an attitude of connection and communication with you, that our ears are open to hear from you, and that we are also able to voice our concerns, our emotions, our gratefulness and thankfulness for what you're doing, that God, you help to keep our hearts attuned to your heart. So God, I pray that, though this is a tool, it's a powerful one. And that we would all either use this or something on the daily to help us to pause, to look under the hood, to reflect back over our day, or in this case, to reflect back over the year of 2021, and to look forward to our present and our future. This, I truly believe, is going to be a great year. So much of that lies on our shoulders, our perspective, the way in which we choose to view the circumstances around us. God, we need your grace, we need your strength, we need your help to be able to see with clarity. So help us today to do so. God, I pray for each and every family here this morning. God, I pray for healing. I pray for those who are struggling with COVID right now. I pray for our community at large, for our healthcare system, for those that, again, continually, tirelessly are doing what they can to care for the community. God, I pray that, Father, that we would be able to get beyond this place of pandemic and live the lives that we are called and created to live. God, I pray that you would shatter fear. I pray, God, that you would give us courage and confidence as we walk forward. Give us compassion for our brothers and sisters, for our neighbors. God, that we would think more highly of others than we do of ourselves. God, let this be a year where, Father, we look back and we feel, instead of things crashing over our head, that, God, we have intentionally taken time to grow and to be transformed through the reading of your word, through prayer, through serving each other in our community. God, let us look back at the end of all this and wonder, and with wonder in our eyes and in our hearts, and joy overflowing, because you have shown us great and amazing things in you. We love you today. In Jesus' precious name we pray. Amen. Amen. God bless you. We'll see you guys back here on January 9th, 10:30 for our service and our kids program. Love you all. Have a great week.
Mhm.